So I've been asked to speak about the concept of operational security, or opsec, for the purposes of the video games that we love so dearly. So this information will be applicable to both Hell Let Loose, Star Citizen, PlanetSide. It'll be applicable to any game that we play in a social context. Any game that has players that organize around resources and time and investments of both. So in PlanetSide, we can jump in, jump out. Doesn't really matter if we have operational security, honestly, because it's such a fast-paced game, they're not going to gain a whole lot if they figure something out. But in a game like Star Citizen or any MMO, really, when you start getting into the concept of guilds and guild banks and resources that take more than a few minutes to create, or things that take more than a few minutes, hours of investment in resources, you start to get into things that people will want to either deprive you of, or take for their own, or mess with you in other ways. As we know, people on the internet love to be assholes, and everyone in here is prone on occasion to doing something stupid in the internet. We're not assholes in real life. You guys all know that we're fathers and brothers and, sisters and whoever else. We're responsible citizens, but in games it's easy to forget yourself, and it's easy to overstep the bounds of acceptable conduct. And while I know that none of you guys are going to engage in this behavior, and I know that we have a good group of people and we trust, it is important for us all to know what is possible and take steps to prevent people from using these things against us.
Most toxic gamer behavior that I think I've ever seen. Avenger1, a Star Citizen content creator, has put out a lengthy video documenting and detailing some of the actions of an organization within Star Citizen, and to be honest, they're alarming.
On each other, and that could lead to a breakup. That could lead to disbanding of that org. Does anybody have a problem with that?
I think that's probably the best thing we can do.
In a very elegant way to try to make that happen. YouTube would be one of the venues to make that happen.
Yeah, I don't know anything more public than that,
And if they got Twitchers, we just go to
Hunt
their
them
Twitch
down, snipe
streams and beat the shit out of them. Send
Yeah,
them to
the
jail,
Mercs.
put them
Mercs
in
still
jail.
with them.
Now, does anyone have any objection to any particular means that we might take to achieve these goals? What does anyone consider morally off limits?
Kill them all.
Otherwise, whatever means necessary. Okay.
Total war.
We found out who he was. He was the freaking Marine guy, and then I acted like I was a Marine dude too. And he was like, "Oh, Rob, brother," and it's like,
I have morals, but my morals are almost like crossed.
that stuff can have like legal repercussions, I think.
Yeah. Well, no, not really.
You gotta be careful with bullying, alright?
But yeah, he might kill himself.
Yeah, that's the main
Who
reason.
would kill himself?
That's the
A1.
main reason.
He would.
Bob and Avenger1 later clarifies that even his address was given out, which could have been these guys as well. They play around with the idea of making some deepfakes to destroy his reputation, but then weigh it against the cost of whether or not he would actually kill himself if they destroyed his life. And then they just...
So as we saw in the video, Avenger1, a Star Citizen YouTuber, was having issues with doxing and people who were targeting harassment towards him for actions in the game. They were doing it so they could gain advantage over him and their interactions with him in game, but they were doing it outside, or they were talking about doing it outside of the game space. So I'd like to go over a little list of things that can happen when we don't guard our secrets carefully. And as we saw in the video, there's doxing. People can try to figure out who you are, use that, such as spreading rumors about you to your real job, contacting your family and friends, trying to get you fired, swatting you, otherwise intimidating you outside of the game space. All of that is Supermondo illegal, and it is covered in the criminal codes, probably wherever you live. So we don't really need to go over that too much, but realize that any information you put out can be put together into a dossier that can be combined with other information that they gain from other sources. So just always remember that it is possible for people to build complex information on simple information.
But the enemy is listening, so I'll never let it slip. 'Cause when I learn a secret, boy, I zipper up my lip. Now the military secret that I carry in my brain, I keep in safe deposit with a padlock and chain. You bet I got a secret. and I bet we find it out. The soldier's got a secret, but I bet we find it out. Hello, baby. Hiya, pussy. Say you're a nifty trick. I hope I meet some babes in Africa as cute as you are. It's been a wonderful evening, and I'd like to stay some more. But I gotta get a move on now. I sail at 4:30. He's got to get a move on now. He sails at 4:30. Now, who in hell do you suppose it was that let my secret out? What was that I heard you say, my little sauerkraut? He wonders who in hell it was that let his secret out.
So within the game space, there's other ways that they can mess with you. Not just the ways that they can mess with you outside of the game space. They could stream snipe you. They can follow your stream as a viewer and see where you're at. They can come fuck with you in the game by following along. We know that exists. We've seen that countless times in Star Citizen. There are groups that make their entire streaming income off of fucking with people and doing that sort of thing. The Matadors are a well-known griefing guild who does that exact thing. Now, if the Matadors were able to get a spy into a Discord, which they do, and any other group does this as well, they can look at the public calendar or the events or whatever and get a sense of when or where they should strike, and that's not good. We know that. So we know that the Matadors actually follow people across servers. They log out and wait until they find the person by going like from server to server. They'll bed log and just keep going in until they find the person. Then they target harassment. In the future, once we start getting into expensive ships and guild inventories and that sort of thing, people are going to want to steal that shit. So you need to make sure that you are not giving them the tools and the know-how and the information to do so. That's one reason that we discourage open streaming of our ops and our trainings and that sort of thing. We try to limit the amount of people we limit access to different levels of our dogma and that sort of thing. And when you are putting out media, if you say you make a YouTube video about one of our operations or that sort of thing, make sure you censor names out. Don't give them who we are, how many there are of us, how we're organized, what we do, how our training works, what resources we have to marshal, how our patrols work, when we go places, what part of the universe we are in, etc., etc., etc. There's a myriad of things that can give away and build a dossier of the group and individuals inside of it. Operational security is being mindful of all of those things and making sure that you are not giving away secrets. Now, to caveat off that also applies to your real life and your interactions within our Discord. If you work in a particularly sensitive industry and you deal with a lot of Department of Defense contracts, it's fine to tell people that, oh yeah, I'm a DoD contractor. That's fine. Whatever you're allowed to tell people, that's fine. But maybe don't go over how many things are ordered for a special project, or you should already know this stuff if you actually have a legit clearance. So be aware of that stuff as well. Now, you guys know that I make a bunch of videos about Star Citizen. When I do, I'm very careful to edit them so that I censor our names, or I'll change our voices. Whatever I think is sensitive, I'll actually make sure that doesn't end up in the video, or if it does, it's sanitized to the point where it doesn't matter. When I release things, I always go through our top brass and make sure that they're okay with it. And you will need to do that as well if you're going to share anything from our times here. So what are some precautions that you can take for yourselves? So one thing you can do is to have a gamer-specific email that you only use for gaming. If they do compromise that or whatever, that's not a big deal because it's just for that. You can just move on, change it to a new one. One of the ways that can trip you up is one of the things that can prevent is if they send you a Google Docs link to something. You might click on that, and now they've got a log of your logged in normal Gmail name or whatever. They can then Google that and find out who you are and where you come from, public records, etc., etc., etc. So it is recommended that you have a specific say, a Gmail address that is just for your gaming account, and use that when you are going through, use that for sensitive operations. Just basically don't make their job easy for them. Practice good password hygiene. Make sure you have strong passwords. If you have trouble remembering or creating good passwords, try to use a password manager. Do all of the standard cybersecurity things. Don't click weird links. You guys know this shit. If you don't know this shit, most of us are in IT. Come to an officer. We'll help you figure that out. Practice good stream hygiene. If you're streaming something that we are doing, make sure that you have a good delay built in so you can censor things that are sensitive. Make sure you're not showing people your desktop or your things that we're doing, where we are, etc. One of the classic defenses against intelligence gathering is compartmentalization. Only people who need to know things get to know those things, and they should only know the things that are relevant to what they're doing at the time. You guys know this as need-to-know basis. We employ this at all levels of the organization, and it is important to keeping a handle on our operations and operational security. So trust but verify is a good way to say this. You can't always trust everybody online perfectly. There's always people out to scam you in real life and online. It's a lot harder to vet people online. Just be aware that, even if you think you know them, they may not be always forthright with you. People are petty, and they're going to do random shit. You running by a guy in Loreville, he sees you have a really cool gun on, he wants to fucking steal that from you. People might even, he might butter you up, try to get in your org. And then, tomorrow he might be like, hey, buddy, now that we're good friends, let's go do this op. And then he fucking stabs you in the back, steals your shit. Is that going to happen? Is it paranoid thinking? Probably not, and probably. But it's a thing that you should probably at least have in the back of your mind of like, it's possible. Scale that up to somebody who's in the org for 2-3 years and is trying to get, leveled up and leveled up and leveled up. Eventually is given the keys to the hangar where we keep a bunch of fucking big ships, and that could be a problem. Always be aware of friends or people that get invited into groups and just tag along. It's really hard to vet people. It's hard for people to adequately vouch for other people. If you bring somebody in, they fuck up, it's kind of on you. So make sure you know that person, or we don't give them enough information where it's going to matter. Just remember that operational security is making sure that people only know what they need to know about what you're doing, what we're doing, what you plan to do, whatever. It applies to everything you do in real life, and it applies to gaming as well. When the stakes are low, it doesn't really matter that much, but as we get deeper and deeper into Star Citizen or any MMO, the stakes are going to rise because real money is being put into it, or at least large amounts of time, and people get real fucking fucky around large amounts of investments of time and money. So know who you're talking to, know what you're saying, know how far your voice goes, and remember that loose lips sink ships, and bored 20-something-year-olds have a lot of time to devote to drama and being assholes. Anyway, that's all I've got. Back to y'all.